I've been able to beat all of the floors of the Anomaly that have been released so far, but I'll have to wait a little bit longer for the rest of them. On top of this, I've been able to score a double S on Chimera, which is pretty good for right now. So the way I've been able to do this is by using one strategy, and that is basically the combination of using Ptah or Ein and some passives that come from the event. There's a specific node that really allows you to lock down the enemies the most, and I think it's probably the most important if you're going to be using my strategy. Chase and Ambush allows you to have a chance of applying additional stacks whenever you do damage, ever, and it works really well in conjunction with one of the newer Espers, Ptah or Ein. You see, whenever you're able to do an attack or damage outside of your normal turn, Ein adds additional damage as long as her ultimate's on cooldown. So when you have an Esper like Hall or YC, they're going to be able to apply an additional hit on top of their assist. This essentially allows you to build very high damage while being able to lock the opponents down very easily. And we'll go over different aspects of how I do that and what we can do against different bosses. And just to be clear, I don't think that all this content can be done on a free-to-play sort of friendly way. I think that you actually have to use legendary Espers to the best of their effect to get higher scores right now. Now this may not be true later on as we get more passive points, but it definitely feels true at the moment. This is the team that I've been using. I've been using Mateo as a lead because he has a crazy 35% speed lead, and I don't think there's anything else that really compares to that. I've been using the Vermilion Bird to turn cycle, and she's really good on scaling for her speed. I also been using YC for the same reason that I'm using Hall, and that's to get those assists. And like I said, the strategy is built around Ptah, which is pretty essential. Now you don't need her to be maxed out, like max resonance, but you definitely want to make sure that she's very fast and tanky. With the passive from the event, you're going to be able to apply at least 5 stacks at certain times, and it's going to be really useful to lock down the boss. At the current time, my score is way above anybody else in my group, and in the world chart, it is 61, which is pretty respectable, I think. So I think the strategy does work. I think there may be better strategies later, but I'm not sure if they're going to be obtainable for most people. I'll go into one of the runs itself so we can see how I scored against Chimera and why the strategy works. And basically you're going to use Mateo and Vermilion Bird to cycle through all your hits while YC and Hall do most of the damage. So this is not a very free-to-play friendly team, and I do not think this content is very free-to-play friendly as it is. So we have to do what we can with what we have, and if you have access to Mateo, you should definitely use him. So as you can see, this stacks built up quite a bit, and you're able to lock down the boss really, really fast, and you're basically just able to cycle all of your damage again and again. As you lock down the boss more and more, his stacks are going to go down, and as you reduce those stacks, you're basically going to take less damage on each of their abilities. So every time the boss goes to hit you, they'll do less, and they'll probably take more damage based on your passive tree as well for the event. If you really want to push this, I would recommend having YC be max skilled. Mine isn't, but the speed break and speed up on your team seems to be extremely crucial on your ability to do damage and to control the boss and make sure to lock them down. I have my Mateo, or Prometheus, on lifesteal, and the reason for this is because I need him to be able to sustain, because I actually don't have any sort of sustainability on this team aside from the shield that Ptah or Ein offers. Now the reason why I chose this strategy is because the boss will gain damage on each time, basically each of its ultimate attacks. And you probably won't be able to survive much anyways. So it really goes, it makes sense to kind of do a YOLO build that works off of just doing Mateo's damage and basically assisting damage. One of the cool things that can happen is that if you're fast enough, you can actually sort of link different lockdowns together. So when you go to freeze the boss from the lockdown, when he becomes unfrozen, if your units or your Espers take turns then, they can potentially get more stacks on them or on the boss, and that will allow you to lock the boss down quicker. I'm going to speed up the video now because the run will take a little while. So that concludes the Chimera run, and again I use a strategy all through the boss floors, and I'd recommend using the strategy because Ptah just makes everything easier. If you're finding that you're dying too quickly, you can actually swap the Vermilion Bird for another healer like Meredith. So if you like this video and would like to see more, please subscribe, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below.